Hey folks, welcome to today's Acquia Partner Bootcamp. We're just going to give about a minute for folks to arrive. So hang tight and then we'll get started. Thanks. Good morning and afternoon, everyone. Again, welcome to today's Acquia Partner Bootcamp. We're just going to give another 30 seconds for folks to file in. Thanks. All right, we're 2 minutes past the hour. We're going to get started. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see some welcome messages coming from folks in the chat. Good morning, Paul. Welcome, everyone, to the latest installment of the exciting series of Acquia Partner Bootcamps. Happy to have you join from all over the globe. My name is Dave Bohr. I'm Director of Partner Marketing here at Acquia, and I'll be taking you through a couple of intro slides. Joining me today is Craig Hanna with our Site Studio team.
Hi there.
Hey, Craig. I'm just looking to advance the slide here. I got stuck up. There we go. Now you can see our faces. Craig's with our Site Studio team, and he's going to be taking you through a deep dive of Site Studio today, which is pretty exciting. Oh, we're a little out of sorts here. So just a couple of quick agenda items. Craig, why don't you take over? Go ahead and take over and just back us up. I think us sharing the screen is playing with my mind.
It doesn't seem to be
a couple of
working.
housekeeping items while we get our presentation reset. This presentation is being recorded. We will share it out at the end of the session. We'll have a nice follow-up email for you in the next 24 hours. We will have a couple of moments where we're going to pause today for some Q&A. So be using the chat throughout the presentation. There we go. That's perfect. Use the chat throughout the presentation to submit your questions, and I'll find those, and we'll ask Craig along the way to make this as interactive as possible. And then we'll definitely have time at the very end for sort of a macro level Q&A on all things from today's presentation or beyond. But here's a quick agenda to get your heads into how we're going to use today's session. This is going to be 90 minutes today. Okay, so we've expanded because Craig has so much goodness to share with you, right? We've gotten a lot of questions. There's been a lot of updates within Site Studio. So today's session is 90 minutes. We hope you can join for all of it, but if you have to duck out, we'll get you the recording afterwards. Be sure to stay till the very end. We are going to have a quiz, as we've been having with the last few boot camps. So if you want a chance to win an Amazon voucher, hang out to the end. We'll have a little poll, and we'll have a little bit of fun with that. All right, thanks. Next slide, Craig. All right, so a couple of quick updates from me. You've probably seen some emails with my name on it. Maybe you've seen my face on a call, but big news, as you all know, Acquia Engage is coming up. We're going totally virtual. It's going to be pretty fantastic. The event is October 20th and 21st. And so I just want to give you guys a little sneak peek, if you haven't already seen it, a little sneak peek into what the experience is going to look like. All right, we have totally digitized and virtualized Acquia's headquarters in Boston. So I know some of you guys have seen this. For those that haven't, enjoy. This is a little behind the scenes look at the custom platform that our event production company is putting together. This is almost to the pixel of what our headquarters in Boston looks like, which is pretty cool. We thought it would be nice to welcome people into our home for Acquia Engage Online this year. One more sneak peek. Next slide, please.
Should be there.
There we go. One more sneak peek. This is the exhibitor booth that we've created for sponsors this year. So we are actively selling these. Hopefully you've been in touch with your partner manager here at Acquia, but if you haven't, now's the time to reach out. Sponsorship sales for booths is closing next Wednesday, but it is still available. We'd love for people to be a part of it. You know, we've really put a lot of effort into attending a lot of other virtual events, talking with a lot of vendors in the space to see what best practices are. And we've put together, in my opinion, the sleekest and most interactive virtual booth that I've seen from any other event so far this year. It's really pretty fantastic. We're getting excellent feedback from folks that are already signed up. Please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to your partner manager if you're interested in a booth. Related, the Acquia Engage Awards, right? I know you guys are all pretty familiar with how these work and why they're so important. We make a lot of buzz around these submissions and most importantly around the finalists. These are open right now. And I just got word that the deadline is extended until tomorrow. And actually what I've been told is for any of you weekend warriors out there, if you can get it in by Sunday, you have the weekend. Not that anybody wants to work on the weekend, but you have the weekend. If you can get your Engage Award submissions in by tomorrow, end of week, or Sunday, we will accept those and they can be in the running for finalists voting. So check that out. It's on the Engage landing page. Again, when we send you this presentation, all of the links will work. One more update here. We started this last month and got really nice feedback. We want to show you what's working well for us. Okay, and so this is a quick snapshot across our top performing webinars, blogs, ebooks, and case studies. This has been refreshed since last month. So this is now basically between August and today. These are our top performing assets. When you get this presentation, these links will work. You can go to those resources. Some of the ways I encourage partners to use this stuff is to either draft your own kind of follow-up or response blogs on your properties, or build a ebook or a white paper, or bake some of these into your own presentations, or pitch us if you want to do some co-marketing off of one of these concepts or cases. So enjoy. We will look forward to getting that to you. All right. So now for the main event, and go ahead one more slide, Craig. I'm pleased to introduce you guys to Craig Hanna with our Site Studio team, formerly known as Cohesion, but every time we say the old product name, we have to put a little bit of money in the jar. He's going to be taking you guys through a Site Studio deep dive. And at this point, I will hand it over to you, Craig, to take the reins and begin the presentation. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, after 3 years, the jar in Brighton is rather big for still not getting the name quite right, but we'll get there. Yeah, so Site Studio Deep Dive. So I'm going to start off with just a little bit of an overview in terms of how we're seeing our agencies working with Site Studio before I dive into a demo. And that demo, we'll go over some of the things that I've perhaps gone over before, but also we're looking at some of the new features. And then at the end of the session, towards the end of the hour, we'll also start talking to you about some of our roadmap items. Can't reveal everything, but I've got a few things to share, and we'll see how we get on. Obviously, lots of Q&A, as Dave said before. Just going to switch off my video for a bit, just so it's easier to go, but we'll come back to that a bit later on. Okay, so I guess most of you know about the sort of, if you like, the relaunch of our products into 2 clouds, which happened in July. You'll see here that Acquia Site Studio, which is when we were renamed as this process went on, is in the Drupal cloud. Although, you know, arguably Site Studio, you know, spans across both of them. I'm going to talk about integrations later on in the session about how Site Studio is now working with Acquia personalization as an example. And you know, we've you know, what in that context, what is Site Studio? Well, it's at a very basic level, it's a set of low-code tools to enable our customers to do more, do it quicker, do it faster. essentially what happens is we describe the rendering requirements of your Drupal site, but and send it to our API, which writes the code and puts it back into your local environments as normal, as you would expect. Your twig files end up in your local file system, etc. But it gives you the tools it's much more than that, because what it does is it allows to democratize the process of site building and designing. So it allows more people to be involved. It stops technical bottlenecks. It allows the reuse of materials. So it's build once, use everywhere. It allows scale and governance to come in. So it allows an awful lot more than just the site building. And again, just to be clear, it's also an end-to-end site builder. So it's not just a site editor, although it is that, and a very good one, a very intuitive one that customers love. You build all of your theme inside Site Studio. So your templates, your menus, your styles, etc., as well as the components, editing experience, pages, etc. But we'll hopefully get a chance to show you most of that today. Okay, so low code is important. So, Acquia continue to invest in our technology infrastructure and the products that we have in market for you guys. Some of the big ones that are coming up in the next year, which will definitely be highlighting Engage, are even more investment in cloud. Hopefully some of you saw our beta launch of Polaris, which is our next generation cloud, which is now in beta and available for people to start testing. To limited beta. So definitely find out more about that, and we'll follow up in the follow up to this session with more details. We're investing in machine learning. I think everyone knows that Agile One joined the family last year, and so therefore the unified customer data platform as well, and low code. And it is low code in terms of Site Studio, but actually, generally speaking, we're trying to understand how we can make our interfaces less technical across our product portfolio. So, you shouldn't have to be a coder to do personalization, for example, etc., etc. So, but obviously Site Studio is very much in the heart of the low code solution that we have for site building at the moment. And so why low code? Well, I guess it's been on the right side of history. We made a lot of bets as Acquia on things like cloud and open. And those have been proved to be right. And we see a big shift in market. There's an increasing velocity of technical work that needs to be done. Our actually current circumstances with COVID is actually we're seeing customers, increasingly drive to digital solutions and digital services online. And so it makes sense for more people in a business to be able to do more of the development, if you like, more of the output, and not rely on bottlenecking through a few through the technical team, if you like. That doesn't mean the technical team are not needed. In fact, to the opposite, there's just too much work for them. There's every agency I know, every customer I know has got a backlog of technology projects that they want to do, and it allows those higher skilled developers, designers, etc., to focus on the high value deliverables. Building applications, designing online services, doing integrations, whatever it might be, rather than page building or theming a Drupal website. Not to say that's unskilled, but it's better placed with other people. And we've got momentum behind Site Studio. So these are only some of the customers, they're by no means all of them now. And as you can see, across lots and lots of different sectors, multi-regional, so in most markets, we've got customers now. Some of the biggest ones there, like Fidelity and Bayer, are rolling out large digital estates on Drupal using Site Studio as the engine. So Bayer, just to give you an example, is running hundreds of websites. There is part of a complete replatforming from another CMS platform for billion-dollar brands, quite often across multiple markets, and literally doing hundreds of sites this year. And the reason they can do that is because using Style Guide Manager, Site Studio, and Style Guide Manager, which is a feature of Site Studio, as well as some of our other tools like ACSF, they're able to create digital estates at scale. They're able to build, replicate, and deploy sites quickly while still maintaining strong governance in terms of brand, etc. And I can talk a little bit more about that perhaps in Q&A if anyone wants to find out more. Okay, so what does low code offer for our partners? So, I mean, one of the questions that we've been asking our customers, sometimes partners, sometimes end customers, is, when you're tendering for projects, will you win more work if you are able to add more value, i.e. are you able to move some of the work that some customers perceive as perhaps slightly lower value, but the production type work, into higher value deliverables within the project? And the answer was clear that that was the case. Likewise, we asked our customers where they saw the most services, the most valuable in terms of their agency services. And again, they were pretty universal in saying that things like, UX design, application building, service design, etc., were very high value, and that they were frustrated sometimes by the time and cost of production. And then the last question that this is just part of a whole load of questions we asked our various customer bases and partners, but how has the decision making changed within our ecosystem? And certainly, Drupal used to have quite an IT leaning in terms of decision making, but that has changed considerably. Not just for Drupal, not just for us, but generally in the market with a lot of other business stakeholders, especially in marketing, but also including line of business owners who want to see their services moved online and have the budgets to do so because they hold a P&L. Finance clearly wanting value for their business as well. So we're seeing a change in the market, and that's why we believe low code is an important part of the delivery model going forward. So it helps you reduce costs and increase revenue. So one of the questions I get asked all the time by partners when I'm speaking with them is, okay, it's great, sounds great, but how does it change things? How do we operate going forward? What do we need to know to make things differently? Because different roles are appearing, different workflows potentially, etc. So I haven't got all the detail here. The session today is really about demoing the platform in some detail, but I just wanted to give a few of the key highlights that I'm seeing from the most successful partners. So the first one is that they very early dedicate somebody. It doesn't have to be a big team, but one or two people typically, to create a Site Studio COE very early in the process, often before they've got any work. That's because there's a bit of an aha moment we find when people actually go through certification or trained, where they suddenly start to really see the benefits, but also are really able to start communicating those to their clients. For example, the ability to do proof of concepts that are almost live, for example, because you've got that expertise in-house, etc. Also frees up, quite quickly other developer resource, etc., which helps your agency. So getting someone who trained really early to be able to get that knowledge, shared through your business, but also to your customers is really important. The other thing that we find that the most successful agencies do are they've taken a good look at how their workflow works and how they can do more things in parallel. So because, for example, you can iterate a lot more, you can potentially not have to finish all the design processes before you start building, for example. What we've seen, and actually we've got a great case study from LifeScan, one of our customers, is that also because of a common visual interface, things like the Q&A time is significantly reduced. There just isn't as many mistakes. There isn't as much problems with the code. And literally in their case, I think it was something like 11% of what was usual for the project that they were monitoring. So those things are important too. How? So this is a crucial one as well, because when you consider Site Studio, which is a very valuable tool for building a single site, but what we're seeing are, again, our most successful agencies is that they're taking a platform approach. They're thinking, okay, we're going to build a lot of sites in Site Studio for multiple clients. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a design system and an asset library. Some of them really have created their own agency design system based around Site Studio, with then the various digital assets within that. That allows them, because everything's reusable, that allows them to very quickly start new projects based on those templates and then customizing them very quickly within the visual UI, normally again by a junior site builder. So again, faster time to value, reduced costs, etc., etc. So you've got to think of a longer term strategic approach to creating your agency library rather than site by site by site. You then customize quickly, and I'll probably be able to show you some of that during this demo. And then lastly, the most successful agencies, we don't want your revenue to be hit. And although you can move faster, do things quicker, and in some cases also empower your customer to do more, which sometimes can be for some of our agencies, there's some concern there. But remembering this is a trend in the market. They want to do more. They don't want to have to go through a technical change process in order to get a new page build, for example. And so what we're seeing is the best agencies is redeploying that time and that expertise to doing higher value work. Again, could be applications, but also things like marketing services and optimization. And because the optimization is so much easier in Site Studio, so for example, the cost of testing, because you can change things in seconds, certainly in minutes, and now that, of course, that it works with our personalization tool, the cost of entry for those kind of marketing services becomes a lot less as well for your customers, and therefore you're adding value because you're helping them grow their digital business, etc. So these are the kind of things that we're seeing our lead agencies taking on and using as tools with their customers. So before I get into the demo, just wanted to quickly talk about, again, the bigger picture. I mean, you don't have to jump to this straight away by any means. Obviously we see agencies doing the walk first, learning, doing their first project, perhaps with a small component library and a small team. But what we see quite quickly is as their customer base using Site Studio grows and the project grows, is they tend to go to some kind of model like this. There isn't, by the way, a single right answer to this. So this is a bit of a generalization, I guess. Different agencies, as I say, have worked out their own ways of doing it. But what essentially they've done is built a platform for site building within the agency using Site Studio. So for example, at the top there, you would have the agency master design system with a component library and templates, etc. And then they would create, in some cases for their larger customers, customer masters, or even what we're seeing now, vertical masters. So they've got a starting point for certain verticals, or even just a starting point for certain features, so based around content types. And so because you can move everything around very quickly from site to site, you can say, okay, I want that blog, I want that product page. Again, I'll show you that in a minute. So they're creating these pre-baked kits, if you like, and then they've got publications, guidance that go with that, so they can deploy them quickly. And then below that, that allows them to set up production at scale. So because you've got a starting point which is already significantly down, part of the way down the process of building a site, you can start deploying them very quickly. So you assemble the sites, and then you customize for that brand, for that use case, for that market, etc. And then obviously you can also empower your customers to do page building and editing. And even, if it's set up using our Style Guide Manager, they can even be doing site builds themselves, but within the guardrails of a strong brand governance framework, which Style Guide Manager manages for you. And again, some agents would argue, well, that's work that we would be doing. But what we're seeing is a shift in the market to customers wanting to do some of that themselves because they want to move at the speed of their customers. So yes, we can say, we'd like to do some of that ourselves, but I would argue you want to spend the time getting customers to invest, further up that value chain. So in their customer master, for example, rather than necessarily further down and bucking the trend. Okay, so before I actually drop into the actual demo, is there any questions about agency models, how you set up, how you train, etc., etc.?
Yeah, folks, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'll take a minute to break if you want to ask some questions. I do have a question here, Craig, going back to a slide you presented a moment ago about what our most successful agencies are doing. How are you seeing those successful agencies getting started?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of what I mentioned there, really. I mean, it's critical, I think, to get that moment of understanding in the agency to get somebody certified. And obviously, we're not expecting your most the biggest, most important project to be the first one. So also, starting to build, because that's when you start getting an aha moment. But definitely having someone trained, because once they start using it, they start seeing exactly what it can be done. It's a very powerful platform with a lot of different use cases. So I think the key is getting started, but not waiting for something to come in before you get trained, because it takes a little while to get your competence up, not that long, but getting that person started. But also, to show your clients, because once the clients start to see the experiences that they can have in terms of their editing and page building, personalization, etc., I think you'll find that quite quickly you get momentum behind that kind of feature set. I think that there's a couple of questions on the Q&A which I'll just go to. When you talk about agency master design system, can those be done out of Site Studio? For example, Storybook to React? No. Your design system sits within Site Studio. That's because we have this big in-use system which knows, everything, all the dependencies, if you like. There's a dependency tree underneath it which allows us to move things around very quickly and easily. However, if you do have things like React apps, they can be taken into Site Studio and put in one of our components and made available to editors. So that's, it's not that you can't use a React, but no, you have to build the master design system inside Site Studio. Is Acquia Site Studio pluggable where we already have Drupal implementation with custom modules? No, it doesn't have to be greenfield. We actually have a guide on our user guide around implementing on an existing site. Obviously, we would recommend that there's a little bit of due diligence done beforehand in terms of modules. We also have a list of sites on our user guide, of modules, sorry, on our user guide, which we have tested, but obviously with so many, you do have to make sure that there's a little bit of testing goes on, but you can just put Site Studio onto an existing site and you can choose which parts of the site. So for example, I think CVS's logo was up on the logos I showed earlier on. They decided to do a slow migration to Site Studio, and they particularly wanted some of the content-rich pages, such as their blog and article pages, to go first rather than some of their other pages. So they've just done it on certain content types. So yes, it doesn't have to be greenfield, but I would do a little bit of due diligence on your module compatibility. But we find most things work, just to be clear, but I just can't guarantee all of them. Is Acquia Site Studio? So next one. Once the site is installed, improvements are made to Site Studio. It's not like an installation profile. No, you can do changes to the site at any time. That's one of the great benefits of Site Studio, is that iteration and evolution is really, really easy. So no, it's not like an installation profile at all. It's an application. It's a module that gives you a set of interfaces inside Drupal that allows you to evolve through visual UI your theme whenever you want to. So the next one I think is, could you clearly outline what the costs of Acquia partnership are? I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, whether it's the cost of Site Studio or not. So maybe you could elaborate on there. It is a paid for module, although in terms of Site Studio, although hopefully most of you have seen this because we've been trying to market it quite hard, but that one Site Studio license is included now with every ACE or ACSF, but with every ACE subscription. So the first one's free, but then if you want to scale, there are charges. Can you share the link where those details are available in the documentation? Yeah, on the follow-up email, we'll make sure that you can see the user. We'll have the user guide, documentation, etc. in there, Madhav. Okay, so there's a question around about, could we have a Site Studio licensing model where we could create our design system? Speak to your partner manager. We're flexible. We want to help you get started. And we understand that sometimes that means you want to have access to the tool ahead of going into full production, because you want to learn it, but also build up some assets. So speak to your partner manager. We are here to help without being specific. Okay, so there's questions on the other one, but most of those I'm going to come back to because it's roadmap. A subscription, so that's Acquia Cloud Enterprise. Sorry, Luke. Okay, I'm going to push on now because oh, hi, sorry, I know you. Hi, nice to see you on the session. What's the plan for upgrading the UI kit? That's a great question, and I would have sent you $10 to ask it. We are actually in the process of looking at that now. So I guess that's one of the things we'll probably be showing at Engage. So sign up for Engage. Okay, I need to move on because we've got a big demo to do and the time is flying by, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to actually see some of the features, etc. We're going to come back to a Q&A at the end, so hold your questions and we'll come back to you guys a bit later. So okay, so Site Studio is one way of thinking of it as a sort of set of tools inside the tool. This is kind of a quick summary of them, I guess. And I'm going to go through as many of them as I can today. So, there's tools for building. So that might be the settings, the component builder, which I'm going to spend a lot of time around component building because it's kind of the heart of what Site Studio offers. But you also have template building, so view templates, menu templates, master templates, etc. Touched on it briefly, probably. I definitely will talk about the style builder. And then we'll also look in quite a lot of detail at the page building and content authoring and things like helpers that allow your customers or your content teams, if you're doing that in-house for your customers to do stuff. And I'll see how far I get with some of the other stuff, but we'll try and cover as much as possible. We'll spend a lot of time, but I just wanted to let you know there's kind of a whole set of tools that cover the whole build, manage, scale, and integrate kind of layers within the Drupal 8 website build. Okay, so we're going to go to demo now. So I'm just going to have to escape here and move to my this page, and hopefully you guys can now see my demo environment. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the way Site Studio works is you install a module, and that module gives you access to a set of user interfaces, most of them under this new menu item here called Site Studio, although there are a couple of things that appear elsewhere. But for most users, most of the features are going to be under this menu here. So I'm just going to take you through, again, not all of them, apologies. We've just got time limits on today, but I'm just going to take you through the critical ones. So the website settings, which I'll do quickly. So as you can see, there are things like, for example, your color palette and your base settings. I mean, this is foundational stuff, but it all still gets done in Site Studio. Obviously, the advantages are here. You'll see there's cohesion classes. Site Studio classes, but they were called cohesion, so they've still got co on them. You can obviously change your colors, and it'll be a universal change. And you'll notice here, and I'm highlighting this because I'm going to use this feature a little bit later on, is you can tag colors into groups as well. So in this case, there's just dark and light, but you can have as many color tags, which is actually quite a powerful feature. And I'll show you one use case of that a little bit later. And then I won't go into fonts and icon libraries. You can upload whatever you want, web-based ones or set ones into your system. You can set your responsive grid, for example, here. So I can change my grid. I won't do it particularly. I'll just show you for a minute that it just changes quickly there. I won't do it because I'll actually recompile the whole website with the new grid, which is very powerful if you want to change something for whatever reason, but clearly not something I want to do today. You'll see the 6 breakpoints. Again, this is more than enough for all of our customers so far. We used to have unlimited, but we found that actually just added to the problems in decision making. So you have 6 breakpoints, and I'll come to those because, again, the flexibility of Site Studio means that you can, as well as it being naturally responsive out of the box, you can actually do quite a lot of adaptive design as well. So if you're trying to find out how a user experience on a different device works, and I'll show you that a little bit later. You can choose to be desktop first or mobile first. It doesn't really make too much difference in terms of how it's rendering. It's just that, for example, if you decided not to set one of the breakpoints, then if it's desktop first, it will look up for its settings, and if it's mobile first, it will look down. So that's really it. But from a user perspective, you don't really notice it. But so anyway, your settings are all in there. I'm now going to drop into one of the content pages and just show you a little bit of the back-end editing experience. So if I just choose, I'm going to choose this blog here and go in here and go edit. So what you'll notice here is this new field called Layout Canvas. And this allows us to drag and drop our components, and we'll go to component building in a moment, drag and drop them around and reorder them, etc. So for example, if I wanted to move that text to the bottom there, I could just drag it down. Likewise, you can have components inside components, so you can move these slides around. And then if I double click on the text here, you'll see this is my editing experience for this particular text component. This is fairly straightforward. What you will notice here again is the tabs here. So now the site builder, i.e., in most cases, you guys, the agency, can decide how powerful the editing experience for your customer is, perhaps depending on their level of sophistication, the use case, etc. And if you want to, you can surface any layout and style options that you want to. So for example, I could decide to have a different background color on this particular component, or I could have you change the width of text, and then we have things like padding, etc., and divide text into different columns. So I can have a lot of control and give my editors a lot of control over how the component renders. That's very useful for a number of reasons, which I'll come to in a second. And if I click here, I've then got my component list here. So these are the components that, in this case, my editor has got available. Now, this is a long list because it's a demo site, but also because I haven't restricted them. So, for example, I can restrict which components are visible by content type or by user. So, for example, I might say that I've got a more advanced user who has access to product pages and the home page. But for example, the blog where I, perhaps a less sophisticated user, I'm only going to give them a few components. That's just one use case. I've also got a visual representation of them here so they can see visually. And if I wanted to drag a new component onto the page, I can literally grab it and just drop it onto the page like that. And then I double click in and edit it. And we'll come to the front end editing in a moment. I will delete it because I want to keep my pages as they are. Okay, so, and if I then go down here, I'll save it, but it's a pretty standard page. And so if I go back to the site, you'll see that these components, these elements here are all the components I was talking about before, right? So this is a component here, this is a card component, etc., etc. Okay. So these components are the building blocks for your editors, which is great. Hopefully you can see how easy they are to use. How do you build them? And so I'm just going to go into components now, and what you'll see here again, we've got a lot of components in here because of, as I said before, because it's a demo site and we wanted to have lots of them. Component strategy is an important part of an agency's role for their customer. So I'll give you an example. Is you don't want to have lots of components with a single feature, a single function. For example, a text and image left and right, but you can't switch them over because then you just end up with a lot of components. But on the flip side, you don't want components that are too complicated that, for example, make the editing experience for a content editor too difficult. So that component strategy is something that, again, our agencies, once you learn how to do it, it's a great value to your customers that you help them work that out. Okay, so here are some pre-made ones. And so if I just go into this text and image one here and click on edit, here's my component. So this is a preview. This at the moment is a thumbnail you have to make as you make it. It's not a pre-generated one, just to show you what it looks like. And down here is my layout canvas again. So you'll notice the layout canvas it's the same interface as for page building as it is for component building, and you'll see that actually is the same for template building, etc. So once you get used to the interface, yes, there's some different things to do, so different features, but once you get used to the layout canvas, so again, I've got this drag and drop thing, right? So I can drag those around, and in the case of component building, I can actually have a preview. I can actually pop it out into a different window if I wasn't on a webinar, but I can actually have a live preview, and it's live. So I can actually, if I pop it out as a component builder, as a site builder, as I build the component, I can see exactly how it's going to render on the page. So I can, which is helpful. And I can also do that by different device types. So here you've got the structure. And so if I click on the plus button here, I'll go back to my list view, it's easier. You can see here that I've got these elements. Now, these elements all come out of the box with Site Studio. So there's a lot of them. There's all the basic building blocks that you need for a website. And we've also got some interactive ones that we've already put together for common use cases. So for example, modals and sliders and accordions and maps, etc., just so that you don't have to think about how to build those. And you've also got Drupal core elements. So you can place a block, for example, or an entity reference on the page. And lastly, and this is important, if there is anything that isn't in this list that you do need, you can create custom elements as well for yourself. So in this case, is the add to any module has been built into a custom element so that it's available to the site builder and they can just drag it onto the page, which is the social sharing module. Okay, so here we have my layout. So I've obviously got two columns with a WYSIWYG and a link, an image and caption here. So let's say I wanted to change this rather than building from scratch because of time. I'm just gonna change this one a little bit. So if I move, let's say on this column which has a WYSIWYG and a link, I needed to have a heading. So I'll drop my heading on there. Great. Now, the great thing about SiteShare is that you can then create the component editing form. So how do your editors edit the content at the same time? So you'll see here, I've got some structural elements here. So that just allows the form to be created. And then I've got some input fields. So if I go here to fields, again, all these fields come out of the box. I've got a set of fields that I can pick from. So in this case, I'm gonna just have an input field. I'm gonna drop it into there. And so I put it into this heading optional, which is a structural field, which just allows me to make the form look pretty, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And if I double click on that, and if I put, I'll just put heading, because that's what it is. And what you'll see here is it's creating a machine name over here. And that machine name will tie up into the actual component in a moment. And I've got other field settings that I can come to. So, I can limit the characters, for example. I can have validation. I can have a default value, or et cetera, et cetera. But for now, I'll just leave it as it is. So I apply that. So it's field.heading. Yeah, so okay, so I'm going to do that. It's because of one used to exist. So field.heading, and now if I go up to this my component form, you'll see up here I've got this heading. So if I double click on that, you'll see here that I've got the ability to toggle variable mode, and when I do that, I'm able to put in the heading style, which I've now forgotten. I'll just go back down again. Sorry, field.heading. Sorry. So I go into there, toggle variable mode, and I can go field.heading, and that basically go out of variable mode, and that essentially stitches the two together. So now my form and my component and my content editing form are now stitched together. So if that's available on the front end, people would be able to input content into them. And then down here, you can see here, sorry, that there's also the things like layout and styles. So it's quite reasonably complex form. But down here, I get to preview it, so I can see is this a good user experience for my customers, for example. So we have. Here we've done it in tabs again. So the first tab's nice and simple. This is where you put your content. So there you go. So we now have a heading here, which wasn't there before. So that's what I've just added. And then also you've got layout and style. So again, in this case, you can change the image position, for example, change the background color and padding. The reason we often recommend having spacing, for example, like padding available, is because in the real world, I'll just save and continue this. In the real world, people build pages, and then somebody comes along and goes, "Okay, great. I want a new component to be put into here," and that might not work design-wise and spacing-wise with the components around them. So to be able to have the editor influence spacing, for example, just means they have to not come back to design process even more often. So they can just do that themselves and readjust the page, which I think is quite important. Okay, so. I wanted to talk about a couple of other things we've now added to our components. And so one of those is what we call repeater fields. Now I don't have a repeater field on this website, so I'm actually going to go and get it from another and show two features at the same time. So I'm going to go into another demo website. This is actually one of our training websites. If someone does the certification, and I'm going to go down here and go to this interactive component, because this is a component I want to use on my other site, and I don't want to build it from scratch because I know I've got it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to sync packages, and I'm going to manage my packages. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a package, and I want that package to be my component in it. So I just go to components, and then I choose my image slider. Yeah, and then that will create. I hope. Interactive. I should control that, and it hasn't. Okay. Okay. Not sure why that's happened. It's not building the package. Okay. Okay. Oh yes, sorry, I haven't pressed the button, that's why. Sorry. So here we go. We've got, so this is the package for export now. And so it's got everything it needs to know to exist. Thank you. Someone on help was just helping me out there. So it got everything it knows to exist. I actually don't need the colors to come through in this particular case. And I don't want, I don't need actually I'll keep the custom styles in there, keep everything else. Okay, so I'm going to save that package now. And here we go. And I'm just going to export the package as a file. There's a YAML file. And so if I go back in here now, and I'll go back into sync packages, I'll import my package. And hopefully, if I choose downloads, there's my package file. It might have some clashes. Yep, it seems to be fine. There we go. And if I, so it's asking me whether I want to override anything. So it's doing a double check to make sure. So I will override that. I'll override that one. Slider navigation, slider pagination. Yeah, I can import all of those. So I'm just going to import those, which just takes a minute or so. So again, here you're seeing the advantage of being able to move things site to site quickly. So you can imagine that model I was talking about at the beginning of having your master library, if you like, as an agency, and how quickly you can then deploy those features to different sites. Okay, so now if I go into Site Studio and go to my components, what we should see, I hope, down here is dynamic components and so interactive components, that's the one. And I can go in here and edit. And so this particular component, which is why I was wanting to show it to you, has got something called a pattern repeater in it, which enables you to allow editors to add content without you having to predefine how many times they can add it. So I'll give you an example. On a map, you can say, yeah, if you want to add more map pins, you can. On a slider, how many slides you want to have, et cetera, et cetera. But you can still define maximum and minimum numbers, for example. So if I click on the pattern repeater, you'll see that it links to the field slider down here. And if I go down to the slider here, you'll find the repeater here. There's a whole lot of settings. So I can say, yeah, only allow, yeah, yes, allow them to add them, but don't let them allow them to add 100 slides because that would be crazy, etc. And I can do tool tips, etc. And we also have something which I'm going to come back to, which is around visibility. So conditional visibility, which I'll come back to, which allows you to switch things on and off based on conditions. And so if I very quickly then go into, I'll go into content, and very quickly, I'm just going to be horribly quick and just dump our new component that we've just imported. I'm just going to dump it horribly on the page, so it'll probably won't look great. And here I've got my slider, right? And I can select a new image for it. But at the moment, there's only one. But now, because it's a pattern repeater, I've enabled the author, the content editor, to be able to go add and have a new one. And again, as I said, I can limit the number. And remember, this is not just for sliders, it's maps and a whole lot of other use cases that it comes through on. So again, we'll do it again. I'll just do 3, just so you get an example of how it works. Select. I won't do things like spacing or whatever, so it might look a little bit odd on the page. But as you can see, we could, as you know from earlier, we could also do things like spacing and styling to make it look nicer. And if I save that, you'll now see, I hope, that we've got a slider here on the page. And yeah, as I said, I can limit the number of times the author can do that to make sure they don't put 100 in. So a very quick way of them having some flexibility. And as I say, there's a lot more use cases than just the slider. Okay, so next thing I was wanting to show you, which, because what we're trying to do is make sure our components are the most powerful, most interactive components building system around. And so what we've also just released is Conditional Fields. And there's actually something that goes alongside that called Hidden Fields. So if I go back to the home page, actually, we have this component here, which is for cards. Now, this is a good chance to show you that actually you don't have to go into the back end to start editing content. So for example, here, if I click edit, I've actually got a front-end editing experience as well, which, you know, if I, there we go, there's always something you forget to switch off. If I click on this edit component, for example, and remember, if I was not admin, I would only see edit, not configure component. Because I'm admin, i.e. site builder, i.e. you guys, I've also got the configure. But for example, in this case, I then can get the editing experience on the front end as well, including layouts and styles. And so I can change this particular component into a 2-column text, for example, just to show you quickly that happening in real time there. So that's now a 2-column, looks rubbish because of the way it's spaced, but you get the idea, it's now in 2 columns. However, I can also configure my components from the front end. It'll take me through to the configuration pages. So here I'm going to take this card and I'm going to configure it, and I'm going to show you how we've done some of the things here. So what you'll see here is that we have, if I click into some of the editing here, what you'll see here is that we've got not on that one. Where's it gone? Yeah, color conditional fields. Sorry, wrong one. So what you'll see here is we've put conditional fields on here, right? So we've basically said, so these are really powerful. We've basically said that if you choose a color, a dark background, using the color tagging I was talking about before, automatically change the text to light. So in here, you'll see the visibility. So show field if field background color tags include light, then you show you give visibility for them to allow the text color. However, if the text is dark, then you automatically select the light color. And so you can do quite a lot of powerful things with conditionality. So that's give me some use cases for that. So the first thing is you can keep forms quite simple, because there's no point in showing choices to the content editor unless it's an option that's valid for them. So you can remove things. Second one is things like just making sure that when they're making decisions around non-content decisions, for example, visual ones, that they make the right choices. So for example, around accessibility, for example, contrast in text. So you can force the experience to be correct by making sure there's always contrast in. So instead of and we've all seen it on websites, right? An editor puts slightly darker color and then the contrast goes, et cetera, et cetera. So you can start controlling those things. And, you know, you can get quite sophisticated in terms of being able to say, well, actually, in this case, you know, if we're going to have, we've got a border, and the border is set up here in terms of add border, the values border. But if I go into border color, what you're seeing here is only show this field if a border selected. So only if someone says, yes, I want a border on my text field, does the opportunity to then have a border color come up. So again, that's the managing the experience on the front end. But I'm sure you can imagine there's an awful lot of power in that conditional options. In fact, here you can see, there's a lot of conditionality you can use, and once you know how to use conditional field formulas. Okay, so powerful editing experiences that you can create there. Okay, so I get so I'm an editor. I'm just going to go back and just show you how easy it is to do some page building. So I'm an editor, and I want to edit the page. Actually, before I go on, just going to take a pause actually, because that was the site building kind of tools, I guess, and how to build your components. I haven't gone into layouts templates yet, but how to build your components and how to build the editing experience. Has any got questions around that side of things? And I'm going to look through the Q&A and chat just to see if there's any there, or if anybody else on the call has any. So Sebastian, are all components full row? No, you can have them side by side, no problem. How can I use views as a component? So we have something called a view template. So totally possible. I'm not sure I'm going to get to that time to that today. We'll definitely share documentation though. Site Studio is only available when hosting is from Acquia, I'm afraid. Translation, so the translation module works as normal. It's also, we've now, again, a good question, we've just integrated in our latest release TMGMT module, so it works with all the third-party translation providers. So we've managed to take, what we've done is essentially take the JSON that stores the content in our layout canvas and make that available to TMGMT so it can go through the normal workflow. And I was going to mention it a little bit later on, but we've also now integrated with Lingotech, as a provider. So translations is no problem. Again, I don't have time to go into a demo of that today, but you know, we can send more details if you're interested. The pricing model I will follow up on separately. I think just, you know, as I said before, the first license is actually bundled with your Acquia Cloud Enterprise. So there's no cost for one license if you're an enterprise. Yes, there is documentation on the conditional field element on the doc site. Well, it's actually on, we've actually got our own Acquia docs. We've actually got our own site studio one. So I'm gonna stick this into chat and into Q&A just so everyone can see it. So here you'll see there's a full user guide, which has got every single feature explained, but you'll also see there's things like tutorials. So there's lots of videos here. These videos are actually all on Acquia Learning as well, just so you know. And if you're going to do the certification, I would do it on Acquia Learning rather than here. And you'll also notice that we had, because somebody asked the question, and a guide to putting on an existing website. So, you know, it can be a hybrid, for example. So I'm just going to go back into my other tab, and then I'm just going to post the guide on here. So glad there's a lot of questions. Okay, so that's in the chat for anyone who wants to pick up the URL. So finally, our biggest challenge has been the lack of thorough documentation and examples. Okay, Kyle, reach out to me separately. We're constantly working on more materials. There's a lot more on Acquia Learning recently. I'm pretty sure I can point you somewhere. So, you know, and obviously have a look at that link that I just gave you. Okay. So I don't know if anyone had any questions, or Dave, if you had any thoughts before I move on.
Looks like you got to a bunch of the good questions there, Craig. We'll have a chance as you're winding down for more Q&A. So
yeah, sure.
Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so great. Okay, so if we go into the page building experience, and hopefully everyone's following me. I am going quite quickly because there's just so much, and I'm still missing out half the platform today. But we did promise a deep dive, hence the speed that I'm going at. So let's say I wanted to, you know, build a page now. Let's add some content. So I'm just going to do a landing page. Oh, wait, no, I'm in Lightning. I'm in the wrong one, I think. Yeah, sorry, I'm in the wrong one. I want to do it here because I've got more components available. So I'm going to add some content. So in this case, I'll do a landing page. Again, I'm going to just have Craig's page, and we're just going to click on the button here to get the components that I showed you earlier on. And I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to drag some components onto the page. This is my 4-column layout that we showed before, but I'll skip that one this time. I want to have let's have a look. What else do I find? Oh yeah, I think I need a slider underneath that, and let's have a look at maybe we need a map maybe underneath that. Oh, come on. A map underneath that, and then we need a form because we're going to have a call to action, right? So I've done it really very simple. And then here you can see that a couple of things have come up, right? So you can see that in this particular case, I've used component drop zones as opposed to the repeater field. And so I also need to think about, okay, what am I going to put into my text and slider? I need to have some slides, and so I'll have to come down here and put a slide in there, put a couple of slides in there, which is the other way of doing what I did earlier on. But what happens here is you've got a set number of slides, and the end editor can't influence how many. They would have to come back to you if they wanted a slide added, hence the other way of doing it if you want to. And the same with Google Map Marker here. Google Map Marker. So now I need to drop in a couple of map markers here, but likewise, I could do that with repeaters as well. So there's no content here. Obviously, it'll have just default, but I'll just have a look at the page. And here we have so pretty quick to have a page. Actually it doesn't look too bad. There's my pages, and there's my form at the end. So that's pretty quick. And obviously then I can very quickly go in and edit the component, choose an image, for example, like that, apply that, and I've got a nice image at the top, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can see how quickly it is to build pages, which is great. So Okay, great. But sometimes, you know, we know how users are, and we know how, you know, repeating tasks, if you've got multiple product pages, etc., or perhaps you've got landing pages and you're trying to do some optimization, etc. You might not want to be building the page, even though that was quick. It's because I was just dragging them on pretty randomly. You might want to also, you know, reuse those and make variations of them. So in this case, you'll see up here as options, I can save as. So now I can save this page as a helper. And this can be as complicated as you want, etc., etc. So, and I'm just going to put them into my general helpers there. So I'm going to save that. And now if I go back to content, instead of having to build that page, I could go back into my landing page content here. And instead of, dragging them on one by one, you can go up to my helper menu. And here I've got my helper menu. So you can see the, product pages, landing pages, conversion pages, etc., etc. So now I go, there's my page, Craig 2, and there we go. Now, what you can also obviously do, because it's so quick to create variations on the page, so there's my variation, is I could say, well, potentially I might want to, for example, I mean, I'm kind of making this up as I go along, but I could, for example, want to decide that I want to test this particular image and text component here. And so what I can do is I can just go in, I'll go to edit mode again. And when I edit the component, you can see here that I can put some new content in it. So I could create two variations of it. And when I go into the back end, so if I go to Office, there we go, manage, sorry, in the wrong place, and go to my components, is that you see I've got another category called component content here. So if I go into components, so components are essentially, for want of a better way of describing it, just, they're Site Studio config essentially. And so, but if I want to make it available to Content Hub, I can go into one of these and just go, okay, I want to, just need to go into it now, edit. I want to save this as, and this time I want to save it as component content. And I can now save it as component content, which allows it to be, turns it into a content entity, which makes it available to Content Hub and therefore to personalization. And so therefore I can then go back to my page and get a slot from Lift. That's the way you insert different content onto the page, and I can insert content variations very quickly into my layout. So it's quite a quick process, and we're actually working on process now in our next release, and I'll talk about that in a moment, ways that are going to speed that process up over the coming months so that you can actually do more of that personalization within the Site Studio environment, once you've set your personalization criteria up. So we're looking at that at the moment. So a lot of flexibility for easy personalization by the content editor. So we've covered personalization, right? Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my main menu here. So just going to point out a few things, but probably because of time, not going to go into them in too much detail because we've still got a few things to cover. As I mentioned, you can create templates. So whether that's your master template, content templates, view templates, what you'll notice if I go into one of them is that it's the same interface. But again, because it knows that we're in a different interface, a different part of the site right now, it knows that I'm inside my view template in this case. I have some different elements here. So for example, these view elements are now available to allow me to render my views onto the page. And I've got some nice features here within my view, which is, for example, pattern repeaters. So I can do quite complicated things. Say, well, the first time just show it across all three columns, and then on the second column show it into three columns, and I can change the patterns and make them quite interesting, things that are sometimes quite even hard to hand code. So views can be made to render. And if I go back into templates, again, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but for example, again, if I click on menus, you'll see the main navigation. So here, so all your menus is built within the Site Studio. And again, because it knows where we are now, these new menu items are available, these menu elements are available to you. And then lastly, I think I've shown you the sync packages. Just to be clear with the sync packages though, because I think I was We were talking about, I took one component, but actually you can do a full package export if you want. You can manage your packages here. But what's important, and I don't think I pointed this out last time, is that as well as the Site Studio entities, i.e. the components, the colors, etc., and remembering that because of the dependency tree, if I choose a component, everything that it's dependent on will be selected, which you can then deselect if you want to, but it kind of brings everything it needs to exist with it. We also have Drupal entities here, so you can actually take over the content types. So for example, you could package together a Drupal blog post content type with the Site Studio entities that go with the blog. So for example, the components, and actually move features from site to site. So again, very powerful way of rapid building and rapid reuse of content across your estate. Finally, style guides. Actually, I'm not going to show you in here because I don't have one set up. I think I've got a little GIF, but style guides are a great feature for companies wanting to manage large digital estates and empower non-Drupal users, if you like. So creative agencies are often a use case. Local business divisions are another use case to create completely new websites, but under a very strict governance, i.e. you can surface certain things that they are able to edit. So they basically take a master version of the site, and then they can edit things depending on what you want, but they can edit the components or the colors, and they can make a site look completely different, but within the guardrails that you as the site builder has announced. And that's what actually Bayer is a good example of that. So they can now get a pharmaceutical marketing expert in Peru who they want to have working for them because they understand the local market, but without any Drupal skills, they can launch a local market website, but based on the governance that's been sent centrally using the style guides. So that's like an example use case. Okay, how are we doing for time? 6 minutes past. Okay, so there are things we haven't got into too much detail today. So, there are areas that you might want to explore a little bit further. What I'm going to do now is just go back to my presentation. But before I go any further, are there any questions on the kind of site editing, the editing experience, the helpers, etc.? I'm just looking. Is there documentation of the conditional field element? Yes, there is. I think I answered that. Okay, so again, Kyle, we'll have to talk outside of the Site Studio docs we think are pretty good, but so unfortunately, I get asked this a lot. Site Studio is bound to your Acquia Cloud account, so you have to be on Acquia hosting in order to get Site Studio. Is the sandbox an actual replica of Site Studio? No, it's just a fully functioning. All features are in there. I think can't think of anything that's not. So yeah, if you get the sandbox, and I'll send you the link. But if you go to acquia.com and go to the product page for Site Studio, you can spin up the sandbox that I'm actually working on, the InSpace one. Yeah, that spins up for you in a few seconds. And so yes, it's fully featured there. How does Site Studio work with Aqualift? Well, I just mentioned it a little bit there. Essentially, you can create component content, as I mentioned, and then via Content Hub, make that available to Lift. The Lift slot goes onto the page as usual, and then it just surfaces that content depending on the variations you've set up in Lift, or personalization as it's now known. We are working on making things a little bit easier, so being able to create component content directly without having to save it from an existing component is actually in our next release, as an example. So we are making it more feature rich, but it already works, but it's just going to get better. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'm just going to go back to the deck that we were going through. So here we go, demo. Okay, and just go into present mode. Okay, so I realize that it's meant to be a deep dive. Hopefully, it's given you a lot of overview of the main features of Site Studio. And I know I've talked fast, so I apologize if people lost me at any point. But I wanted to get through a lot of content today. However, I do want to talk about why we think our agencies need to be adopting Site Studio, because we're at the beginning of a journey, and there's a lot more to come. And I'm just going to tease a few things, perhaps. One thing I did want to show quickly is Style Guide Manager. So this is just a very simple example of a style guide. I didn't have one set up on my demo environment. So in this case, what you're seeing here is a style guide for InSpace has been built, which allows a totally non-technical user or a non-design user via a set of, in this case, a typography style guide to change some of the settings on the site, to change the look and feel, but only within the limitations that's been set by the site builder. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, not just for Style Guide Manager, but also for component building and the editing experience. It is as powerful as you want it to be as the agency that's taking the lead on it. You can give a lot of things to your customers to be able to influence, but I also understand that sometimes customers need to be managed from a content perspective. As I say, if people can break it, they often do. So we give you full flexibility. You can decide what to expose. You know, you could just be a WYSIWYG and nothing else, or it can be styles and layouts, and then even, you know, the whole look and feel of a website if you want to. So that's why it's so powerful, because you've got that ability to match the content editing and page building experience to the requirements and sophistication of your customer, which I think is important. And as I said, we're only at the beginning of the journey. So I wanted to show a couple of things that we've got coming up. So one of the things that we're working towards, the project that I'm working on at the moment, is we want to enable our partners to create the design ecosystem, you know, potentially, you know, maybe to share them, but certainly create their own. And we're working with some partners on that already. So some partners are creating their own design systems for use internally for their projects, but some are also now looking at how they could create them for other markets, vertical markets, for example. And I'm just going to show you a demo. It is still Cohesion branded because the video was made a little while ago. And this is actually one of the first ones coming to market. There are going to be others. In which case customers can buy, in this case, the local UK government design system embedded into Site Studio. So if you're building a UK government website and you want to follow the government digital services guidelines out of the box, then we have now got a design kit, as we call them, that can be imported straight into Site Studio, and you know that it follows the guidance, it knows that it's the governance is there, the compliance is there, etc. And we're planning to extend that to other design systems, including for other regions. So there is an American design system, for example, and we are looking, hopefully, to do that at some stage as well. So let me just show you a quick video. Hi there. Sorry, I think there was some sound problems there, but I think that most of that is just that background sound. Most of that is obviously a visual presentation, so hopefully you got the idea there. So a few things there. Firstly, you know, it's our first one in terms of a vertical market, but we would like to do more. You'll see that it was partner led, so we're now, you know, going to market with that partner together. It's also Acquia from our perspective. We've, because we know that the government marketplace is very competitive, we've also looked at our government pricing and packaging together with the design pack. And ACE and Site Studio all packaged together. So if any of you out there have got UK government clients, do take a close look at that. It's not public yet. It will be on the 28th of September or soon afterwards when the new G Cloud goes live. And again, as I said, for those of you in different markets, there's a lot of different regions that have got design systems run by their governments. I think my list is up to 20 something. So we are hoping to bring that to market. And I know that other agencies are doing the same around other vertical markets where they're saying, well, what's the commonality here? Can we pre-bake things? So as a partner, as our key partners on this call, if you've got any ideas, do come to us. We're open to suggestions to build that design ecosystem around Site Studio. Okay. So I think I already kind of mentioned some of this during the presentation. One of our focuses in terms of not just Site Studio, but Acquia generally, especially on the back of the DXP launch, was making sure our products work better and better. Now, they already do. So Site Studio already works with Acquia personalization and with some aspects of Content Hub, for sure, with Site Factory and obviously with Cloud. But we're working on making them better, more seamless, more, intuitive, if you like. And we're also working on external integration. So TMGMT was one that I talked about, which allows language translation with third-party language houses. And specifically, we've done a separate one with Lingotech, who are one of the leading translation partners for Acquia. And there are a whole lot more coming, which we'll be announcing over the coming weeks and months. And the idea, this is again, yes, our products need to work together really well for you guys, which, as I say, we're doing that. But it's also part of this open DXP vision that we have, which is that we want to also make sure that it works with third parties, or that you can plug third party features in if you want to, or services in. So that's a really important part of our product strategy from a Site Studio perspective. Site Studio. So again, we're going to be launching ACMS, stands for Acquia CMS. That's going to be Engage. So I'm not going to give away too much right now. So please, come to Engage to find out more. But Site Studio is the engine behind this again. So Site Studio is, comes inside Acquia CMS, along with a whole lot of other stuff, right? A whole lot of modules that have been pre-vetted, the really common ones, etc. So it's an install profile in this case, or distribution, and it gives you best-in-class CMS features selected by Acquia to get you going with enterprise site builds much quicker. So if you want to find out more about this and how it will accelerate your kind of site builds, pop along to Engage and attend Engage, because there's going to be a whole stream around ACMS. It's one of our big launches at Engage. So do come and find out more. Okay. Oh, that's come out the wrong way. So, we're already far down the line, in terms of giving the best editing experience, in our view, the most powerful components. I think you saw the new features such as repeaters, hidden fields, conditional fields, just give you so much power, such easy to do, the integrations, the fact that the design ecosystem is allowing you to go faster. I think some of you are aware, I think, because I can see there's a few existing partners on this call as well, about our UI kit, which has been around a long time now, and it's several editions out of sync. It still works, but it's based on, I think, version 6. We're on 6.3 just now, so we are working on updating that. And again, I'm hoping that might be available for Engage as well. So we're already well on our way to offering a best-in-class open experience for site builders, content authors, etc. But come to Engage and find out more. What are your next steps? Well, as I said before, one Site Studio license is bundled with all ACE and ACSF subscriptions. So there's no reason that your customers can't get started. If you can't be recommending it as part of your proposals to them. You can get Sandbox access at this link there. As I said, it will spin up exactly the same site that I was using today, fully featured. So that's fine. And again, if you have real opportunities, we want to work with our partners. If you've got real opportunities that need a proof of value, proof of concept, or whatever, and you need to have that on a proper domain, do speak to your partner manager, who'll talk you through the criteria. And obviously, we're here to help. We want to help you win business, and if that means helping you get Site Studio up and running for a while as you go through that business development process, and do ask us. I would recommend, and it's really important that you get someone certified as early as possible if you want to adopt. It's because you'll suddenly get that insight by someone going through the training much, much deeper than I've been able to do today, and through the certification process. And they'll then be able to pass the knowledge across the business. You'll be able to do proof of concepts yourself. You'll be able to build those kind of working examples for your customers to see, et cetera, et cetera. And there is, nearly all our customers, our partners have had an aha moment, and that's when they start to get just how powerful it is, when they start seeing, all the things that I haven't covered today, which there is still a lot. So these would be my next steps for you guys. So, and again, I think Dave will back me up by just saying, speak to your partner manager as well. That they're here to help. Okay, so how are we doing for time? So we've got 10 minutes left. So I think we're sort of kind of on schedule. The last 10 minutes was designed to be a Q&A with you guys. We've still got a lot of people online, which is great. Thanks for sticking with us. How many have we got questions?
Yeah, so Craig, I'll jump back in here too. Nicely done. Thank you. Folks, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'll use as much of these next 10 minutes to get to these questions as possible. I am going to pause after a couple of questions because, like we said at the beginning, we do have a quiz to pull up. And the first person to answer that correctly will get an extra $20 US to Amazon. So we'll answer a couple of questions, and then we'll do the quiz, and then we'll wrap. All right, so folks, use the Q&A, but we do have a couple of things in here. Craig, let's answer this one. How does Site Studio work with Aqualift?
Yeah, well, I think I've kind of sort of talked about that already in a way. So that's the saving as component content, and it makes it available within Content Hub, which then makes it available for personalization. And it's literally a save as. You save the component as that component content. So it takes a couple of moments. But to make it even faster, we are going to enable you to actually decide to build component content directly. It's a different entity type, so that you don't have to have a component variation of it, and you'll be able to do that. And then it's obviously just visible to lift straight away, to personalization straight away. And then you put a lift slot as you would normally, and then lift does the rest and puts the component content in the right place and does the variations based on your personas, etc., your targeting that you've got in lift. So pretty easy to do. But as I said, just to reiterate, we are making it even easier with a few different features. Again, I hope to be showing a lot of that at Engage one, because we're hoping to have those or some of those out for Engage as well. I did see one on here, Dave, as well. I just wanted to pick up on it about the roadmap of cohesion with respect to D9 and D10. It's already D9 compatible. It's out. Acquia had a very big push to make sure that as close to D9 coming out as possible, all our products were working with it. So no problem. Just want to make that clear.
Okay, great. Here's another one, Craig, from Michael, asking for, what's your sense of the expected time investment for training and certification with Site Studio?
The effort. So we tend to find, so there's two parts of it. So the videos, watching the videos takes, I think they're about eight hours of videos, I think maybe 7 hours of videos. And at the end of that, there is a couple of options for you. There's a multiple choice test, which tests the knowledge you've learned, and that allows you to get a formal certification. We also have a live project, which you don't have to complete to get the certification, but we do recommend it. And that's where you build the not the InSpace site, the alignment site, the other site that I went to get the export from. And just because it puts those practical skills. So in total, we would say, if you want to do the project as well, maybe about 30 hours of work would get you, but that's get you up to quite a high level. That's building sites, building components, editing systems, that's quite a lot. So anything between 10 and 30 hours, depending how good you want to get.
Okay, thanks. So it sounds like maybe about a full day's effort, or you could break it out across a week or so. But sounds like we've certainly got the tools to help people get up to speed and be able to pass that certification. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. I want to pick up on the one last question that's come in on the Q&A, actually, because I think it's an interesting one, which is the best approach to deal with Site Studio when you plan to have tens or hundreds of sites using the same components. Good question. Obviously, there's a lot of different use cases there, single brand, multi-brand, etc. But we have the ability to do quite a few things there. So, for example, there is the ability to obviously to export as packages and push those down into sites. And but then the concern would be potentially, well, I don't want to overwrite something that's been localized. So you have the ability to lock components within a particular example. So we've got quite a lot of different ways that you can manage the relationship between a master site, a master design system, and the local delivery, etc. So that's just one of them: the ability to lock locally, the ability to use packages to move it to site. We don't normally push everything because obviously we normally recommend that it's done through packages as opposed to just pushing a rebuild, just because that's just a risk. But there's lots of ways to manage it at scale, and that's what Bayer are doing essentially, and some other customers now. They've got hundreds of sites all working off brand masters, and then updates are kind of pushed down to local variations as needed. But do speak, if you want to reach out, if you want to find out any more, then do so.
All right. I'm going to take a quick pause from the Q&A, and I'm going to launch our poll. So again, for a chance to win an extra $20 to Amazon, the first person to answer all these questions correctly will win that, and we'll follow up afterwards. So I'm going to launch this, give you guys about 60 seconds, and then any time left, we'll get back to some other questions. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Lots of answers coming in. It's fun for us behind the dashboard here. We get to see these answers coming in real time. Got over 20 people participating in the poll right now. Keep those answers coming, because I don't know all the right answers, so I don't know if we've got a winner yet. All right, we're going to do about another 20 seconds on this. All right, it looks like answers have stopped coming in, so I think we've got everything we're going to have. I'm going to close out of our poll, but thank you to over half of the audience participated in the poll. We will have our crack experts take a look at the results on the back end, determine a winner, and we will be reaching out. All right, so back to Q&A. Craig, any other questions that have come in that that we'd like to answer while we still have folks for the next 1 to 2 minutes?
Yeah, just having a look. Looks like Greg was just asking, where's the sample project information? So yeah, I'm just relaunching that actually, Greg, and moving on to a new platform with the new 6.3 on it. If you're interested in doing it, then I'll speak to your partner manager, because we'll be updating them, but there's probably going to be a delay of about a week or so because we're moving it to our new ACSF and making it more stable and adding 6.3 features into the project. But we will, if you ask your partner manager, they will be getting told within the next week or two where to find that.
All right, super. Well, Craig, tell you what, there's a couple more questions here, but what we've done the past couple of times is we'll take those offline and we'll follow up either directly or through partner managers to get you answers to any of these remaining questions. So if you've submitted it, it's in the system for us, and we'll make sure that we get an answer for you guys in the next couple of days. But I do just want to finish with a couple of reminder housekeeping items. Acquia Engage Online sponsorships. Sales are closing next Wednesday, the 23rd. Email me directly or reach out to your partner manager if you're interested in learning more about an exhibitor booth. It's going to be very interactive, a great lead gen opportunity. My email, you can reach me at dave.bohr, that's dave.bor at acquia.com if you want to reach out directly, or reach out through your partner manager. And similarly, take advantage of today and tomorrow to get with your customers. And if you've got some opportunities to submit for the Acquia Engage Awards, we'd love to see those submissions. Feel free to be creative. You can submit the same customer story and case study to multiple categories. So, spread spread your shot broadly and try to get involved in as many categories as you think are relevant. And we'd love to see those numbers tick up and be able to recognize the great work you're all doing. So with that, I think we'll wrap. We're about a minute before 11:30. Thanks all so much for joining. We hope you enjoyed the session. We'll get the recording out to you along with the other items that Craig mentioned along the way. And we'll look forward to the next conversations around Site Studio and beyond. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.